how did you decide, or when did you decide that you wanted to start making and designing watches? From my point of view, like, what does that process even look like? Like, you wake up one day, and what's the first step? Finding a watchmaker, finding a designer, or how do you go from zero to hero on something like that?
Well, it was organic, right? And it started probably in the same way. I'm probably as just like all your listeners, right? So I got really into watches, and I started buying them, collecting them, trying to learn as much as I could. I took it a little bit further, and I started buying watchmaking tools and taking things apart in my basement
Hmm.
just for fun, just because I wanted to not only experience just the beauty of the things and the different stories behind them, but I wanted to like play with movements. I didn't really even know what I was doing. I was just like, I want to like play with it,
Yeah.
open it up, see what makes it work. And you know I got semi adept at taking movement out of a case, taking hands off, dials off, putting it back together, and I had a lot of fun doing that. It was challenging, and I'm not a trained watchmaker. I just like am pretty good at figuring out how things work. I was just playing with it, watching videos, reading books, getting so far in a build and then realizing, oh, I need this weird esoteric watchmaking tool. I got to order that and wait for it to come in. But I had a lot of fun with that, and I bought, like, you can buy just on eBay like cases and things and pre-made hands and ETA 6497s and things and hands made for those to post. And I kind of like made a watch, just like kind of a generic watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, this was kind of a lot of fun. I bet other guys in the watch community would like to do this or try it, but then maybe also, through my doing that, I encountered all kinds of pitfalls, right? Like I just mentioned, I'd get so far and realize I didn't have the right tool, or I didn't know how to do a certain thing exactly. I was just kind of trying until I figured it out. So I thought, well, it'd be great if people just had all the right tools they'd need to case up their own watch and kind of have that experience and then have their watch. So really, Cincinnati Watch Company started as build your own watch,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
that was
Yeah.
in 2016, and that went on for a few years, and basically we're just selling kits and parts. We
Mm-hmm.
had like you'd pick your dial, you'd pick your hands, we'd have a case, you'd pick your strap, and then we had videos and we had a toolkit created from a watch supply company so that you could buy a toolkit and you'd have everything you need and you could just do it your home at home and follow my semi rudimentary instructions, but they were good enough that you could get a watch together. I mean, it,
Yeah.
it amazes me to this day that we sold those and just people who didn't know anything from Adam were just getting them and putting their watches together and then sharing pictures of it. And they were just very inexpensive. We used Miyota, 8200 series automatic movements,
Mm-hmm.
nothing too expensive or crazy, which made sense because if it's the first time you're messing with a watch, do you really want to be messing with a $500 movement? You
Exactly.
know, so um, so that went along pretty well, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of effort in that because I was like taking little watch parts, put them in like individual dishes and packaging all this stuff up together and shipping it off to the
Sure.
customer. And then during that whole time, me and my business partner Mark, and Mark kind of handles the web and digital side of the business. We were talking about the Union Terminal all along and how much we love the building,
Mm-hmm.
and the
For
clock on the front of it.
for those of our listeners that aren't familiar with Cincinnati, Union Terminal is the big, huge, historic train station right on the west side of
Yes,
town.
so it has a lot of significance. The Union Terminal was built in 1933, very Art Deco. It's considered like an Art Deco train station kind of masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the largest half dome structure in the Western Hemisphere. Um,
Didn't know that either.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very big. Um, big dome building. Originally, like I said, was a train station, but sometime around the 70s, when kind of rail died, they kind of converted it for more like to accommodate freight trains, and then it sat kind of idle and unoccupied. It even there was an attempt to make it into like a shopping mall for a few years, even
Hmm.
that failed. But then ultimately, the Cincinnati Museum Center moved into it, so now it's our Natural History Museum and Cincinnati History Museum. And it's got an OmniMax, and it's a really cool sprawling place. I mean, the kids love the museum part, but for me, just the architecture part, like I'm happy just to like walk in the front rotunda and then just like walk back out, and that's my visit to the museum.
Yeah.
I just want to see the beauty of all the mosaics and the just this big dome structure that you're in, and then even more historically significant is, or not even more, but a part of the history is that this is Superman's home. Hanna-Barbera used the design of this building to create the Hall of Justice.
Oh, yeah.
It was based on the museum, so it has like pop culture reference. It played important parts in the war, had very interesting clock arrangement in that building. But at any rate, we've talked a long way to say that the clock on the front of the building is very unique, and
Mm.
everybody in Cincinnati would can recognize that clock. So Mark and I had been talking about, wouldn't it be wonderful to make that into a watch? And we weren't sure if anybody even had. Gruen was just down the road in operation in Cincinnati while this was an active train station, and that clock
Yeah.
stood proudly there since 1933.
Yeah. They were
Um,
until the 70s. Yeah. Gruen.
yeah, well, they left Cincinnati in '58.
Hmm.
So, but from 1933, when Union Terminal was built, to 1958, they were a stone's throw away. You know, but I later found out that no one has ever made a watch out of that clock, but me. After talking with the people at the museum. So this whole time, Mark and I were thinking, well, what if we just, in addition to this build your own watch thing, why don't we start a normal brand where you buy a completed watch, and the first watch could be based on the Union Terminal clock? And we thought that would really resonate with the city. And at the time, this was 2018, the museum was going on under like a historic kind of restoration.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things were being, repaired in the building. The building was shut down for a year during this restoration, so the city kind of lost its museum for a while. Lots of anticipation for its reopening. Um, so it was very timely, right? That we thought of this idea, and then I like emailed the museum center 100 times. They must have thought I was crazy. Like, who's this guy that keeps like emailing us about this watch, and who's this nutcase? And ultimately, we met with the museum president. I got into the office, Elizabeth Pierce office, with some design drawings in hand, and I said, "We want to do this. We kind of want your blessing with it. I mean, it's public property. I don't know. I probably could have done it without the museum's involvement, but I really wanted them to be a part of it and to like it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that the sale of that watch, some of it went back to them to support their mission, because I love the building. I want the building to stay, and I want the museum center to thrive. So um, she loved it, and that was basically history. I mean, when we launched that initial Union Terminal watch, they sold out real quick, and then that was the beginning of the Cincinnati Watch Company.
There.